Hey guys, it's me. We're going to make a super easy dessert today using apples. Kind of tastes like southern baked apples, but we're going to cook it on a skillet. Great topper. You can eat it by itself, or you can top it on angel food cake, or pound cake, or ice cream, or just eat it by itself if you're crazy like me. So let's jump into it. The first step is going to be cutting the apples. I'm using Gala apples here. I think they're a good balance between sweet and tart. They're not crazy tart like Granny Smith. They're not super sweet like any other apples. So they're a good balance for me. And we're gonna slice them. If you have one of those fancy slicers that cores the middle and brings out the slices, that's great. I'm poor, so I don't have that. We're just gonna slice them up, and we're gonna slice them into like 1 or 2 inch squares. The biggest thing here is to leave the skin on. If we take the skin off, it basically will turn into applesauce when we cook it, and applesauce is delicious if you're 1 year old, but we're trying to make an elevated dessert, not a kid's food. So leave the skin on. That will keep it from decomposing and breaking down when we cook it, and that will make the end result still have a little bit of a crunch, and it'll keep its apple-like shape. Okay, now that the apples are all cleaned, they're washed, they're chopped up, now we're gonna get a pan. I'm gonna use a small cast iron skillet because it works perfectly. I'm just using 2 apples, just like making a small batch. The cast iron works perfectly. Just let it heat up for a little bit, then throw some brown sugar in there, and kind of slowly let that heat up over medium-low heat. Once the brown sugar starts to melt a little bit, add a hair of water and just kind of turn that into a paste. Once that's kind of pasty, throw the apples in, keep the heat medium-low, and just like slowly stir. Once that's stirred up a good bit, you can turn the heat down even a little bit more and put some warm water in there. After it starts to thicken and you're getting everything mixed up, you're heating it up, you can add a little bit of water that will start to actually make that sauce, and it'll also start to cook the apples. At this point, you will also add some butter. Just add a few knobs of butter, and then just slowly stir that, slowly stir it, and let it sit there. After about 5 to 10 minutes on the stove, you can taste it. The biggest find is how crunchy are the apples. You don't want them mushy like applesauce, like I was talking about earlier, but you don't want raw apples. You want somewhere in the medium. What am I saying? Somewhere in the middle of the two, and that's the sweet spot. You still want a little bit of crunch, but you don't want it raw. You can also add a little bit of vanilla extract. I normally will add that at the very end because you don't really want to cook it because it cooks out the flavor. You can also add cinnamon, of course. I'll add cinnamon. If you have nutmeg, you can add that, and that will go in kind of in the middle with the brown sugar and the butter, and just stir that into a paste. So after you've cooked it, just be patient with the cooking process. Don't be impatient like me. It smells great, it looks great, you're ready to eat it, and then you crunch into one of the apples. It's totally crunchy, it's basically raw. It needs to cook for at least 10 minutes, preferably 15 or 20 on a very low simmer. After it's done cooking, you want to let it cool for at least another 5 to 10 minutes. So get the old stopwatch out, give yourself some time, read a book or check Instagram or whatever the kids are doing these days. Chill out. As it sits and it cools slowly, this sauce will start to thicken as well. So keep it stirring it, but just let it cool. The sauce will thicken up, and then you'll be good to go. You can throw it on whatever you want. So let's take a look at it. So here we have the finished product. It's been sitting for probably 5 to 10 minutes. You can see the thickening in the sauce. It's still kind of thin, but it's definitely thickening up. You can see that the apples are saturated, they're ready to rock and roll. They're a nice dark brown because of the brown sugar, the cinnamon, and just the cooking process. And they are ready to go on whatever your favorite dessert is. I'm probably going to top it a little bit of ice cream, maybe a little bit of homemade whipped cream, and call it a day. That's it for today's video, a little baked apple, but on the stove with a twist. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.